You guys all day and we're here to help, replied Peter. Frowning suspiciously, James stood over the three kids in a very menacing way, making them feel intimidated, for James was a lot taller than they were. All right, he said sternly, let's get to the bottom of this. Who are you kids, and why have you been spying on us? You don't remember us, Jimmy Reitherman? Clara asked. How do you know my name? We went to the camp at Pyramid Lake 5 years ago, said Peter. We're the ones who accidentally sprayed you, Richie Lounsbury and Frankie Kimball with mud, said Eddie. And I'm the one who sprayed smoothies all over Catherine Nordberg and Christiana Cleworth, added Clara, slightly embarrassed. James's eyes widened in realization as he looked from one kid to the other, remembering their faces and that incident at summer camp 5 years ago. Eddie McDowell? Peter and Clara Burkhart? They smiled and nodded, relieved that James recognized them, but became a little worried when he started frowning again. What's going on here? By the way, I'm very sorry about the mud spraying incident. If you're still angry about it, Jimmy, said Peter hastily. To you and Richie and Frankie. I'm sorry too, said Eddie. We didn't realize our remote-controlled trucks were stuck that deep, or that they would spray you with mud. James then had another flashback of himself, Richard, Frank, Carly, and Christy harshly scolding Eddie, Peter, and Clara for their mischief. Upon remembering this, James sighed as a look of remorse spread across his face. I'm the one who should be sorry, he said, ashamed. We shouldn't have yelled at you the way we did. Just a reminder of our cringy teenager years. Did I grip your shoulders too hard that day, Peter? Not at all, said Peter at once. I didn't even feel any pain. Richie and Frankie didn't hurt me either, Eddie added. In spite of everything that happened, we're only glad to see you again, and to be in your service, said Clara humbly. What can you three possibly do? James asked. Then a thought occurred to him. How do you even know what's going on? We witnessed the meteor explosion, they all said in unison. It took James a few moments to process what they had just said as the realization struck him. We heard about the meteor landing near the old camping ground, said Eddie, and we camped out there hoping we would see you. We've been following up on you at what you and Carly have been up to since you graduated high school, said Clara. That is, we've been reading about you in the papers. We didn't want you to think we would squeal on you guys, so we stowed away in the boat attached to your old camp bus, said Peter. Said James thoughtfully. That explains why Pedro and Reginald were suspicious about someone else being aboard. We even saw you guys receiving your costumes, Eddie blurted out. Peter and Clara immediately clapped their hands over Eddie's mouth, grinning in embarrassment. James pretended he hadn't heard what Eddie just said. I still don't see how you three can help, said James, sighing. I don't even have a plan to get them out. We can help with that, said Clara. Who says you have to do this mission alone, Eddie asked. And we're your #1 fans, said Peter earnestly. We insist on helping you no matter the cost. They bowed before James. We humbly request your permission to let us assist you. And if we can possibly live with you for the time being, he added quickly, looking up at James and winking. James paced back and forth in front of them as he thought it over. He had not seen Eddie, Peter, and Clara since the summer of 1976, and though they were a little older now, he wasn't too sure. On the one hand, he thought of the stakes and what it would mean risking the lives of 3 middle school-aged kids. On the other hand, James realized he couldn't do this mission alone, and that these 3 kids were more than willing to give them their unconditional support, reminding him of all the friends who supported him, admired him, and were loyal to him growing up. After all, loyalty was a noble quality regarding friendship in James's mind. He turned to face the 3 kids. All right, you 3 can help, he said at last. This was followed by very enthusiastic cheers, and with that they headed back to James and Carly's house. However, I would like to get one thing straight, said James seriously. If you're going to help me on this mission, you're going to have to take orders. You think you 3 can do that for me? That's fine with us, agreed Eddie. Clara orders us around all the time anyways, added Peter. Well, I'm the oldest, said Clara, pleased with herself. We're twins, retorted Peter. I'm still the oldest. By 2 minutes! Big deal. James sighed in exasperation. Sorry, Jimmy, said Peter hastily. Clara and I don't usually argue. In fact, we get along quite nicely most of the time. Well, that's good, replied James, because the next thing I was about to ask is for you to please refrain from any fighting. You got it, said Peter and Clara, high-fiving each other. So, you guys are our #1 fans, asked James curiously. If we had our own clubhouse, then yes, said Peter. But when we do, I'll be the president. I'll be vice president, said Clara, and I'll be in charge of entertainment and snacks, added Eddie. Sounds nice, said James thoughtfully. So, Jimmy, said Eddie, is it okay if we call you Jimmy? Sure, you can call me Jimmy or James. Just don't call me Jim. It sounds too plain and way too many people with my name use that nickname. Where's the rest of the team? Peter asked. Do you have any idea where they were taken to? Clara asked. Well, James scratched his chin. Considering the army captured them, I got a very nasty feeling that they're being taken to that dreadful Area 86 in the Mojave Desert. I've never been there, but I've heard some extremely pleasant stories about things that have happened there over the years. He shuddered delicately at the mere thought. You don't think they'll be tortured to death, do you, Jimmy? Asked Clara, looking deeply concerned. I don't know, Clara, said James uneasily, but I can only imagine what will happen when they meet that ruthless General Henderson who runs the place. To be continued.